Don't be kissing me. Somebody's over here trying to give me a smooch in the studio.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no, he was looking at my eyes. Back to the sociopathic thing, because what interested me, what really fascinated me about your article was I thought, I know so many of these people. I mean, I know a guy that's all of them: antisocial, histrionic, narcissistic, obsessive compulsive, and he's a bully on top of it. I mean, could that be?
The super vampire.
Yeah. You better call up Dr. Bernstein and tell him we have some guys he's got a interview.
Right, a perfect case study. I think it's certainly possible to have all kinds of combinations of these sorts of behaviors.
Yeah, but to have them all in one person? Come on.
Well, there's bad eggs out there, I'm afraid.
You know something? I know a sociopathic one, and what you said, they will do whatever it takes to get you to do what they want you to do. This guy will try to get in your head, try to get under your skin. When I first met him, he knew at the time I was a very avid skier. The guy never set foot on a ski slope in his life, but yet he's like talking Vail and Aspen, and you know what I mean? I know these places like the back of my hand, and I knew what he was up to, but every time he would see me, he would try and constantly get on my good side by sucking up, if you get my drift. And it's just, sometimes those are the warning signs. I think that you have to give us a cheat sheet, what are some of the warning signs?
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think, because it's sort of like know your enemy, I guess, is the way to think of it. I mean, a lot of times, and this is true, I think, whether it's in your work life or personal life or what have you, you think if there's a problem person, you think you might be able to change that person, and perhaps things will get better. Fill them with
kindness.
Right, but I think in a lot of these cases, you're better off learning that person's traits and trying to find a way to work around them, because the chances of changing them are not very good. I mean, a lot of these folks, and in some cases, and certainly in the case you're describing, you might be dealing with a person who has some kind of an actual personality disorder. So these aren't always just, people who are kind of a pain in the rear. I mean, these are some people that may actually have some psychological issues going on as well. So, to think that you can somehow alter that kind of a behavior is probably overly optimistic.
Or get him to stop. Get him to leave you alone. I know this woman who was in this circle of friends. She's a gourmet chef. She was a rep at the apparel center for when I was there as a plus-size clothing designer. I was one of the country's first and top plus-size designers for 87 to 98 for like 12 years. Wow. And whenever we'd go to her house, for some reason, she was just on me like white on rice. And she was so jealous of me. And we both modeled, and she was a model for Missy, slimmer women. I was a model for plus sizes, and she would always criticize me. And one day I'm in the kitchen helping her, and they have a lot of cocktails, and she had a few under her belt, and she looked at me and she says to me, I am so much more talented and gifted than you are.
Oh my gosh.
So I was there. I was so stunned because I knew she was jealous of me. I knew she had a problem, and I never really realized what a mean girl she was. And then after that, she would pull stuff on me to almost embarrass me or belittle me in front of people. I'm not kidding you. Mikey's hiding his head over there. Can you imagine somebody pulling this on me?
Well, this happens in radio every day.
Well, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? Yeah, you're right.
Congratulations.
That's right.
I mean, I was stunned. She's the hostess. You can't go and insult her or anything. So do you want to know what I did eventually?
Oh. Yeah.
I mean, there were so many episodes. I don't want to take up the rest of our time talking about what
could be a column.
She did some things that just curled my hair. Seriously.
And that's why you look so good today.
Exactly. And you think Mikey thinks it's something with my eyes. No. So we were having a big party. There was a big group party, and there was another girl in this party, and her name was also Laura. And Laura used to be a flight attendant. Now, these flight attendants are no shrinking violets. They can take down a guy. I mean, they're a lot stronger and tougher than you think that they are. And this girl is a hoot. And so I was telling her about what was going on with this one woman. She goes, I think she needs a sash. And I said, what do you mean? And then it came to me, like the Miss America sash. So I made a sash, a big wide ribbon sash, and I put Miss blah, 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 of whatever year it was, so like of 2010, across this sash, like Miss Illinois. Yeah. And I rolled it up real beautiful, and I put it in a Tiffany's box. And I presented it to her in front of everybody at the barbecue. And there was like 50 people there, and she's just all flattered. She sees the Tiffany box, and she opens this sucker and unrolls this sash that says Miss such and such of 2010. And everybody's like laughing, and see, everybody thought it was cute because she's such an overachiever, and she likes to be Martha Stewart and Donna Karan, but you can't be it all. Either you're Martha Stewart or you're Donna Karan. And she's Martha Stewart, and I'm Donna Karan. But anyway, so that's how I got back at her.
Very good.
Is she all right today, or did she have to go on Dr. Phil's show?
She went on Dr. Phil.
All right.
It scarred her for life, actually. How really do we avoid letting these people get to us? Like, maybe that wasn't such good manners on my part, but I couldn't resist it.
I couldn't resist it. Anyway, well, that's the thing, is it's so hard to not, especially when you come up with a good comeback or something like that. It's awfully hard not to do that. I mean, we're only human. So
I know.
But I think, and you know, the problem with work is, again, you know, these are people that you have to deal with, unless it's, you know, I mean, and certainly in cases with bullying and whatnot, those are situations that some people wind up actually having to leave because it becomes that, you know, that problematic and potentially even dangerous. But you know, I think the best thing to do when it's a workplace person who is grating at you for some reason is to just try to figure out what is the pattern that they follow. You know, if it's a bully, they come up, they start talking to you about something, they start picking on you about something. You know, and then they expect your reaction to be what? Usually, either you leave, you sort of run away, or you confront them, and then that just keeps it going. So you need to find a way to sort of break that pattern, and you need to find a way, because that's going to force the person to think more, you know, because a lot of these people, they don't really think. I mean, they're just, this is what they are like, this is what they do.
They're like on the prowl for a victim constantly.
Right, yeah, exactly. But then when you stop it, and when you kind of break that pattern, I think you can give them a moment to think. It also gives you a moment to think also, and that can kind of change the whole dynamic. And it might even put you in a little bit more of a powerful position, too.
Can I tell you, the sash did that for me.
Yeah.
The sash nipped it, chopped her off right at the ankles, because she knew it. Everybody there thought it was real cute and funny and sweet. She knew. She locked eyes with me, and she couldn't even bring herself to put it on. And everybody's like going, "Oh, put it on, put it on." And she knew why I gave it to her.
Yeah, she'd been had. So that's right. Yeah, well, that's good. I mean, I mean, if there's of course, you know, that's a roll of the dice. Because you didn't know exactly what her reaction was going to be, but if you, I mean, you know, I think you take all of this kind of advice with a certain grain of salt. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to handle things the way you want to handle them, or the way you feel is best. And the only person who ever really knows the exact dynamic is the individual involved. But,
and sometimes other people really don't catch on, because like with this woman, when she would do it mostly when she and I were alone. Like if I'd go in there and say, "Can I help you with this?" or pick up or serve or what, that's when she would do it, when no one else was around. So I would then, if I would be snotty or something to her, everybody'd be looking at me like it was me.
Right.
She's a crafty one. Listen, you're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show, and we're on the air live with Rex Huppke, a reporter at the Chicago Tribune who writes a fabulous workplace advice column called I Just Work Here, which runs every Monday in the business section and online at the Chicago Tribune. And let me tell you something, if you want you just want good reading, and just read his column. Anyway, so that's probably the one biggest tip you can give us about how we drive the metaphorical stake through our vampire's heart is not playing into their hand.
Yeah, basically. Although, you know, the one point, this psychologist, and I thought this was kind of an interesting point that I'd never really thought of, specifically in terms of micromanagers, in terms of people that are real control freaks. In that case, you may actually want to play into what they're doing by basically giving them what they want. I mean, so, okay, a person is a control freak. So when they're talking, you want to take notes. You want to give them status updates more than you think any rational person would want them. You want to be exceedingly thorough, ask lots of questions. And the hope then is that the person says, okay, well, look, this person is really paying attention. They're doing everything. They're giving me updates. I don't need to worry about that one. I'll go bother somebody else. So in a sense, if you have a person who's that kind of obsessive-compulsive vampire, you want to go ahead and say, okay, look, this is the way that person is. I'm going to kind of play along with it. I'm going to give them what they want. And in an ideal world, they'll leave me alone. And that's the payoff. So
sometimes they don't, though.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's the truth. And again, that nothing is ever foolproof. I mean, you've got people who, as you said before, I mean, it might have multi-layered things. I mean, they might be kind of a control freak and a bully, or, who knows. And then you just have to kind of weave it together. But I do think that, the core idea of basically doing reconnaissance on the person that you're dealing with, figuring out, okay, what is it this person keeps bugging me? What is it that they're doing that's bugging me? What is it that I'm doing that seems to trigger that? And how can I try to figure out a way to make this not as annoying? And it may even be trial and error to some degree.
Sure.
You might try some stuff, and it works. Some stuff doesn't work. But, I think at the end of the day, that gives you a little more control. Because if the only other option is to start yelling at the person or to quit or what have you, this is something that you can control. You can say, okay, look, you can make it a challenge almost to say, okay, I'm going to figure out what makes this fool tick.
Let me ask you something. What do you do if this vampire's your boss?
Same thing. I mean, I think it applies whether it's a boss or a coworker. I mean, you need to understand to the best of your ability how that person thinks and what it is that you do that triggers them to, behave in a way that you don't like.
Sometimes all you got to do, Rex, is show up.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I would, her thing with me, all I had to do was show up. And that was it. It was like a red cape, in front of her eyes like the bull.
Yeah.
Let me ask. Go ahead.
Sure, go. No. I was going to say that happens too. I mean, there's situations. I mean, we've all been in them. I think where there's just somebody that you do not see eye to eye with, and you never will. And that's just the way it is. I mean, I think it's almost like you get dogs together sometimes, and there'll be a couple dogs that just always fight, and there's nothing you can seem to do about it. They just don't like each other. I think it's the same with humans. I mean, I don't know why.
Insecurity, I think.
Yeah, probably. But,
can I ask you some personal stuff?
You may.
What is the biggest mistake you've ever made career-wise, and how did you recover from it?
Say this show, for heaven's sakes.
Agreeing to be asked personal questions was perhaps... let's see. That's a good question. I think there's a decent answer there. I actually originally was a chemical engineer.
No way.
Yeah, that was my undergraduate degree was in chemical engineering. And I got to probably about midway through my junior year in college, and I realized, oh boy, this isn't quite what I'd hoped it would be. But I didn't know what else to do. And I had come from, my dad was a chemical engineer, and his dad was, and to his credit, he never pressured me at all, and it always made me feel like I could do whatever I wanted. But I admired what he did, and blah blah blah. So I wound up going that path. So I went ahead and graduated, and I got a job as an engineer, and was miserable. I mean, really miserable.
Wow.
And so, but stuck too, because at that point I had student loan bills. I was making decent money as an engineer, but I didn't know what else to do. I was completely, really lost. And so it was kind of funny. I think this is a good example of how little things in life can kind of occur that change your direction and stuff. But I was living with a friend of mine from college, and the place where we were, they happened to one day deliver a new weekly paper that had started in this town. And it came to our door. I'm flipping through it one day after work, and they had a whole ad in there that said, we're looking for writers, columnists, photographers, blah, blah, blah. And I showed it to my friend. I'm like, oh, look, they're looking for, people to write and do stuff. And then that was it. I kept flipping through it, and I look over, and he's staring at me. And I said, what? And he goes, well, you've always wanted to write. Why don't you give him a call? And I'm like, oh, no, I can't do it. What am I going to say? And so I ignore him and I keep going. And then he's staring at me again. And I say, what are you doing? He says, he says, go upstairs and call them right now, or you're never going to do it. And I said, oh, okay, fine. So I did, and wound up, I don't know how exactly, but something in my desperation or something, and they told me to come in, and I wound up going in, and I talked to them, and next thing I knew, I was writing for them after hours. I still had my engineering job. I'd go there at night, work for 4 hours, and that's when I really figured out what I wanted to do. So, I think, I got onto this career path that was completely wrong for me.
And it ended up to be right.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Then if you wouldn't have done that, you probably wouldn't have been a writer.
Exactly, yeah. So, I think it's kind of I don't know if that's exactly answering your question, but it's kind of I erred in terms of what I thought I wanted to do and the sort of the path that I went down, and then I got in a really frustrating situation that was making me crazy, but, with a little patience and also I'd say a little luck, you kind of can find your way out of those things and get on something right. And you find, too, that at the end of the day, you have to do what you really love.
Plus, it shows people, too, all is not lost. You were in a situation, you hated it, and you found something else, and you fell into it, and you love it, and you're excellent at it.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. But, yeah, it was, it's been fun. I certainly never looked back. So.
You're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show. We're on the air live with Rex Huppke, a reporter, fabulous reporter at the Chicago Tribune, one of my new favorite writers, and he writes a workplace advice column called I Just Work Here, runs every Monday in the business section. You can read it online, chicagotribune.com. Rex, I got another question to ask you.
Sure.
What one word best describes you?
Now I feel like I'm in a job interview
We're at a dinner party. I would ask you this at a dinner party if you were sitting next to me.
One word. I would say, well, it's a hyphenated word, but I would say hardworking. I really, that was something that was sort of instilled in me from a pretty young age, and, something that I've always carried through, and I think that's what, allowed me to, kind of figure out things and keep pushing, and get to a place that I wanted to be. So I guess if that, like I said, if a hyphenated word counts, then that's one word.
That counts in our game here. What do you consider the most overrated virtue?
Oh boy.
What kind of questions are these, Laura?
I ask these at dinner parties. Why?
Harder than most. I mean, this is the first time I've heard these questions. I can't even help somebody out on these.
Is there a prize at the end of this?
Dinner.
Right.
Dinner for two at Gene and Giordetti's.
There you go.
Or three.
Or four. Overrated virtue. Gosh, that is really tricky. Boy,
what do you think is the most overrated virtue, Mike?
Good looks.
You think
you're the exception, though, Diva. You're the exception.
Thank you for saying that. You to see Rex Huppke. This guy's a real looker, honey. Oh, he's a hunk, man.
He's a hunky.
He's a hunkster. Do I give you a pass on that one?
I'm going to have to take a pass. I really, nothing's coming to mind. I apologize. But maybe nimble-mindedness was what I would pick, since I don't seem to be that.
Who's your greatest hero in real life?
Batman? No,
Batman? You too?
That's acceptable.
Mike says that's acceptable.
Let me think about that for a second. Actually, that's...
who do you look up to?
There is, I'll tell you what, there's not going to be just one person, frankly, but I'll tell you about
Give me the list. Give us the list.
One of the things, the best part of what I do and have been able to do over the years is the people that I get to meet is pretty remarkable, and not famous people. They're the least remarkable. It's the just sort of everyday people that you get to meet, and then as a reporter, journalists get a lot of flack and are generally disliked in a lot of regards. But it's a real. I don't think what people know is that for us, it's a real, at least for most of us, a real honor to get to meet people and go into people's lives and learn about them and that sort of thing. And there's one person who I've written about several times. His name is Brother Jim Fogarty.
Okay.
He works. He's not an actual ordained brother. He is of the Jesuit order, but he never actually became a brother. But what he's done is over the past, more than 2 decades, he's worked in the projects in Chicago.
Wow.
And his whole mission is he just walks around and he talks to people. He doesn't really proselytize or anything like that, but he, if people are having problems, he tries to help them. If they have a court date, he goes with them, and if somebody's hurt or somebody's killed for, he's there. And he's just always there. And then the most amazing thing, this was actually started by another guy named Brother Bill, and then Brother Jim became kind of his number 2 person, and now he's the one who mainly does this. But when this all started, it was back in the 80s when things in the projects, there was just the murder rate was through the roof. I mean, it was just crazy. And these guys a gunfight would break out, say, between 2 buildings, and these guys would go and stand in between the 2 buildings.
No way.
And because everybody in the projects knew these guys, and they liked them because they were kind, and they were always there, the 2 sides would stop shooting because they didn't want to hit them.
Wow.
And they did this for years. I mean, this went on for years. These guys were shot at just an insane number of times, never hit. And I believe, and I've written a lot about gangs and stuff in Chicago, and I personally believe that they probably, between these 2 guys, saved more lives than just about any, other anti-violence program or anything like that. Really remarkable.
We should make the mayor and the police chief of the city of Chicago aware of Brother Jim Fogarty and his pal.
We've written. I did a big story on him a while back, and So it's to me. I mean, that's the kind of person that I look up to, and that
That's awesome. What a great answer. Let me ask you something. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
I think that one of the key things for me about talking about work is being happy, enjoying what you do, and that's hard. I mean, it's hard. The one thing I would say is to keep your expectations realistic on that front. Nobody's ever going to be 100% happy. I don't believe, and if anybody ever says they are, I don't believe them. Every job has its downsides and its bad days and bad weeks or even years. But I do really think that if you can find what it is that you really enjoy doing, you will.
You've got it made.
Right, and you may not. It may not mean. Like maybe what you really enjoy doing is being is painting or being an artist of some sort. Well, okay, maybe you're not going to find a job that's exactly that, but knowing that could well lead you into something that works. Maybe it's graphic design or, you know what I mean? Like
anything, yeah.
Yeah, but you find something that sort of taps into the central part of you, your central kind of drive in life and the things that really, make you get fired up. And then you're going to be a lot happier. And I think that you don't worry, to the degree that you're able anyway, you don't worry as much about what you're going to get paid, because I think that'll come, if you're doing what you like, you're going to do well at it. So.
Let me ask you something.
Sure.
Give us your contact info, because we're out of time.
Okay, sure. If people want to email questions for the column or anything like that.
Absolutely.
It's I just work here at Tribune.com. So all one word, I just work here at Tribune.com.
And they probably use that phrase every single day. Don't ask me, I just work here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, my dad used to always say that. That's how I came up with it.
Brilliant. Rex Huppke, star reporter at the Chicago Tribune, writes a fabulous workplace column called I Just Work Here. Thank you so much for being with us. You're a wonderful guest.
Well, thank you. No, this is a delightful interview, too. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best on the show here and everything. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I'm going to be in touch. I might want to get a hold of Brother Jim for a future guest.
Sure. Yeah, I'm sure he'd be happy to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
All right. You all have a great day. Thanks.
You too. Bye-bye.
Very nice.
Isn't he good?
Yes.
He's cool. You're listening to the Laura Dion-Jones Show, and we're on the air live. We were speaking with Rex Huppke. He's an awesome reporter at the Chicago Tribune. He's got an outstanding column. Honest to God, I just work here, and it's about workplace advice. It's every Monday in the business section. He's got a new fan and a new reader in me, ChicagoTribune.com. What else do we have going on here? It's that time again. I'm sorry. We have so much more to talk about. I'd like to thank everyone for being with us today. My gang, Jeff, Mike, Valerie, and of course, thank you to all of our loyal listeners. And thanks again to our very special guest, Rex Huppke from the Chicago Tribune. Next week, another terrific writer friend of ours, James Finn Garner, will be joining us again. And he's got a new terrific book out. Also, friends of mine, friends of Lincoln Park High School, they're having a benefit Lion Pride Night. It is Saturday, April 28th, 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Only 200 tickets available. It's going to be an outstanding event, and please get a hold of them at lincolnparkhighschool.org, and you'll get the information on their website. And today's show has been brought to you by
Dr. Claire Elias. You know that, 2001 Larkin Avenue.
And we'd like to thank Snob Hounds, and thanks again, Casey, for making this show possible. Please get everyone you know to read my weekly motivational blog on elgin.bocajump.com. And this is the Laura Dion-Jones Show. I am Laura Dion-Jones. And our thought for the day from our old pal, who we awesomely love, Larry the Cable Guy: light travels faster than sound. That's why some people appear brighter until you hear them speak. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Keep all of our troops over in the Middle East and around the globe in our prayers. We absolutely love being here with you. Mikey, thanks for the happy. I put a spell on you. Creedence Clearwater, as always. Download it. Get your butts out walking. Your life depends on it. Semper Fi, kids. Pray for peace. See you next week.